Hey, make sure you get hydrated. Okay, hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel if you are new. Hi, my name is Kezzy, or whatever you want to call it. Yep, that's my name. Today's video, I'm going to be doing part 3 of Ghosts and Legends of Frederick County, which if you are from this place, then this will be really nice stuff to read about. I got this from Barnes & Nobles, and I thought it'd be fun to read, so I'm now reading it to you guys. I'm doing it in different parts. There is going to be, how many parts is there? The book's actually split up into different parts, and I really appreciate that, because it's telling me how many videos I'm going to be doing. 5. So this is part 3, so we just have 2 more parts after this. Yay! I'm so excited. This book is only like 74 pages, so it's a really short book, obviously, as you can see. And I'm just excited to read this with you guys. I'm not going to stay too long on the intro. I know I've said that in my last 2 videos, but I really mean it this time, since I've already filmed a video today, which was the last part. I just finished that. So if you guys want to go watch part 2, go ahead. You can also watch part 1. I recommend just watching. You don't have to watch them because it's different parts, different sections. But I would just recommend it. You could watch it after this video or not, but anyways, get some tea. I have my tea with me. I read the little inspirational thing because it's from Yogi, so they have inspirational stuff. I read that in my last video, and it's like a blackberry digestive awakening thingy, so it's really good. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into this now, and yeah. So the section that we're on now is the last video we read. We've read so far the haunted houses. We've read folklore and legends, which the folklore and legend ones were kind of intense, and now we're going to Civil War, which obviously that's going to be kind of a lot too. But anyways, the Civil War, here we are. Okay, this book is by Timothy L. Cannon and Nancy F. Whitmore, if you, just so you know. Okay, then yeah, okay, let's go ahead and get into this. Okay, Civil War spooks. When one thinks of Frederick's part in the Civil War, the name Barbara Frietchie immediately comes to mind. An elderly, opinionated woman was immortalized by John Greenleaf Whittier's account of an event many historians argue never happened. Historians do agree, however, that Frederick County played an important part in the Civil War. In October of 1859, word was received that John Brown and his raiders had captured the arsenal at Harper's Ferry. The first offer of assistance occupied by President Buchanan was that of Frederick's military companies. Also, I'm sorry about my bangs. They're kind of chaotic, so we're just going to ignore them. On July 9th, 1864, the city of Frederick was forced to pay a ransom of $2,000 to General Gabriel A. Early. The delay caused by the negotiations for the ransom allowed the Union forces to form a line of defense and prepare for the Battle of Monocacy. The battle was doubly important because it allowed the Union Army to fortify and successfully defend Washington, D.C. and force the rebels into Virginia. During the Civil War, troops of both armies crossed the state innumerable times. At one point, Frederick County had as many as 17 hospitals treating wounded Union troops and Confederate prisoners. Many area homes were commandeered as headquarters building for both armies. Soon, some Frederick County families were sympathetic to the Confederate cause. One such family welcomed a wounded rebel soldier into their home. When a company of Union troops appeared, the young soldier was hidden in the cellar. The soldiers were expected to take what supplies they needed and leave. Unfortunately for the young man, they did not. The company set up their camp right in the front yard and stayed for several weeks. With all the excitement, the family completely forgot about their other guest. Finally, after the passage of several months, he was remembered, and when they went into the cellar, all they found were his bones. After the discovery of the skeleton, moaning and scratching sounds were heard in the cellar, and visitors were often startled by the sound of the sudden appearance of a young man dressed in the uniform of a Confederate soldier. On September, what is it with cellars though? Like, that's my question. I've read a lot of, like, on YouTube and stuff, I've heard about and read a lot about, like, stories about cellars and stuff. It's like basements basically, but like, still, what is it about it? Like, in all these old houses, the cellars are always like haunted or something's up with them, you know? And I'm like, makes me never wanna. I'm already scared of basements, so I'm like, it makes me not, like, I've never really like cellars. I've never lived in a house with a cellar, but like, just the idea of the cellars always kind of creeps me out, and I'm like, this doesn't make me absolutely terrified. Like, if I move into an old house that has like a cellar or something, I'm not gonna want to, like, I'm gonna like board it up and never use it, like, type of stuff. Also, like, you could have real people hiding in there, and that's absolutely terrifying. Way more terrifying than the ghost stuff. Okay, on September 10th, the armies of General Lee, Jackson, and Longstreet began to march west across Frederick County. They would be forced to retreat from South Mountain on September 14th after a costly battle. There were many such costly battles for the Confederates in Frederick County. One such battle occurred on the outskirts of Buckrettsville, just below what is now a memorial to a Civil War correspondence. Incredible as it may seem, both armies decided to add an element of surprise by striking before dawn. But as Confederate troops began the time-consuming task of moving their cannon up the hill, the Union troops, moved only with rifles, took the rebels entirely by surprise. Many of the Southern troops retreated, but thousands of them fell before sunrise. For many years, there have been reports of strange sightings and occurrences in that area. Occasionally, eerie campfires can be seen in the mountains and open fields. Phantom soldiers appear to be sitting before a fire, warming themselves. Upon closer investigation, the strange scene vanishes. One of the strangest and most difficult occurrences to explain takes place just before you reach Burkittsville, at a spot now known as Spook Hill. I love that name, Spook Hill. Ooh. If you stop the motor of your car and place it in neutral, you will suddenly feel as if you are being pulled back up the hill. Upon leaving town, you will feel as if though you're being pushed. It is believed by many that the car is being pushed by the spirits of the dead soldiers continuing to perform their duties. Anyone who has journeyed to Burkittsville and experienced the sensation of moving uphill can well believe that phantom soldiers are struggling to move the car, just as they struggled with the cannon many years ago. I get why it's called Spook Hill now, because it's kind of spooky. Another area landmark dating back to the early part of the 19th century is believed to be the home of Civil War spirits. In 1807, Leonard Harbier began building a stone bridge in Frederick County. After its completion, he built a large demolition alongside the bridge. I have no idea what that is. Okay. At that point, it was believed that a bottle of whiskey was sealed inside the jug. Civil War soldiers also believed to use the jug as a hiding place for their whiskey. Passers-by frequently reported hearing many strange sounds in the area of the jug, even after the old bridge collapsed and was replaced. The strange sounds followed the jug to its new location. Restless spirits, possibly those of the young men killed during one of the many battles fought in this area, are believed to continue to search for the whiskey they placed in the jug so many years ago. So, yeah. Okay, so that's that. Now we're on to an old wives' tale, and there's like a little picture. So, yeah. Oh, this book. Oh, my word. I have no idea. Like, I've only been reading this book, and it's like, why is it like that? Is it, I don't know. Maybe this is like cheap or something. I don't know. Anyways, an old wives' tale. Early one evening, Mr. Wise is sitting on his porch smoking his pipe when he saw a man dressed in a gray uniform coming up the road from Middletown. As the man drew closer, he appeared to be gliding along the road, his feet not quite touching the ground. Suddenly, old Mr. Wise sat up and stared. He could see clear through the man. As the man approached, Wise heard him say, "I've come to have you turn me over, Mr. Wise. That's all I want done." Wise was frozen into his chair, unable to speak. The apparition continued. "Why not? You threw me down the well. I was the last man in, and you'll find me right on the top. I am very uncomfortable down there, lying on my face. Really, Mr. Wise, I can't rest. I can't get my breath." "How can that be? You were dead when I put you in." Wise knew very well where the soldier was buried. After the Battle of South Mountain, he was paid $5 per man to bury the dead. Eager to have the money, but reluctant to perform this service, he quickly placed as many bodies as possible in an abandoned well on a nearby farm. One of the men he buried was Sergeant Jim Tabbs of Virginia, the soldier he now faced. "That's true. I am dead," replied the soldier, "but I am uncomfortable just the same. I've come all this way just to have you turn me, Mr. Wise. If you don't, I'll come back every night until you do. You'll do it tonight, won't you, Mr. Wise? I can't rest in peace till I'm turned over." I'll do it, if it kills me. It would be an unpleasant task, but if he wanted any peace, he would have to turn the body over." Satisfied that Mr. Wise would comply with his request, Jim turned and walked down the road. Just as he disappeared, the frightened old man heard, "Remember, Mr. Wise, I've got to be turned over. I'll come back every night till you turn me or you're dead." Wise finally went to bed, but was unable to sleep. His mind full of thoughts of the dead soldier. Just before sunrise, he took his spade and went to the well. The well was dry. It was now the final resting place for almost 50 Confederate soldiers. Driven by the fear of what would happen if he did not keep his promise, Wise began digging. At last, he reached the first body and found that it was Jim Tabbs lying on his face. He reached down and tugged until he turned the body over, straightened it as best as he could, and replaced the earth over the grave. Greatly relieved, Wise picked up his shovel and hurried home, never mentioning his ordeal to anyone. Unfortunately, he was soon visited by more trouble related to the mass grave. The authorities discovered the location and circumstances of the burial of the Confederate soldiers and forced Wise to provide a proper grave for each soldier. The ghosts of Jim Tabbs and his company of Virginians were finally at peace, and Jim never returned to the Wise cabin. The Phantom Battle. This is the last one in this video, so yeah. The last one in the Civil War section. So this is the last one for this video. So the Phantom Battle. It was Halloween. The air was cool and the sky clear and bright. All but two of the guests at South Mountain House were asleep. Both men were reading in their rooms, relaxing after a day of traveling. Suddenly, one of the guests became aware of a sulfurous odor coming from the direction of the barn. Thinking that a vagrant had started a fire to ward off the night's chill, he ran to the window to investigate. Sure enough, he could see wisps of smoke coming from the direction of the barn, and the smell was even more distinct. Not wanting to awaken the entire household, he went to the room of one of the other guests and informed him of his superstitions. I mean, not superstitions. Suspicions. They proceeded to the observatory at the top of the house, where the smoke was even more apparent. The two men went immediately to the servants' quarters and sent a manservant to investigate. After some time, he returned and informed the guests that he had checked the barn and all the other outbuildings on the property and had found no sign of fire anywhere. The servant, annoyed at the interruption of his sleep, returned to his room, leaving the two guests perplexed. The men, confused by the servant's report, returned to the observatory. The smoke was still visible. Suddenly, at the stroke of 12, an unbelievable event occurred. The smoke took on the eerie shape of men. Columns of phantom soldiers converged upon the summit and met in fierce combats. The air was filled with the odor of cannon and gunpowder. The terrified men ran into the house and slammed the door. As the door slammed, the battle ended and the soldiers disappeared. On September 13th, 1862, Union forces drove Stuart's Confederate cavalry from strong positions at Catoctin Mountain across the Middletown Valley to South Mountain at Turner's Gap, where Hill's forces were forming defensive positions. The Battle of South Mountain began on the morning of the 14th, when Hill's troops attempted to halt the Union Army at Catoctin Creek. It was an unsuccessful effort, and they were forced to retreat further up the mountain. The Confederates were outflanked on the right and on the left by the troops of General Cox, Reno, Hooker, and Ricketts, and by the evening were forced to retreat, leaving their dead and wounded among the cornfields and pine trees of South Mountain. By day's end, more than 1,000 men were lost. The sounds of the battle could be heard in Frederick, and the sulphurous smell of cannon and gunpowder permeated the air. Could these two men, brought together by chance at an inn on the National Pike, have witnessed the agony of these men who had died in the battle almost 20 years before? If so, they were not alone. 50 years later, two travelers on the Appalachian Trail chose to camp on the field beneath South Mountain House. They fell asleep and almost immediately, but were awakened around 11 by what sounded like clashing swords. The night air was filled with a sulphurous odor, and the sounds moved closer. Suddenly, two columns of soldiers faced each other in the battle. They disappeared after a few minutes, and South Mountain became peaceful again. Peaceful to all but the two frightened campers, who would never rest easy on South Mountain again. So, yeah. That's the end of that. So that's the end of the Civil War one, and yeah. So the next one is Strange Creatures, and we just have two more after this. I might take a little break. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. I feel like I'm probably gonna finish filming these because I'm basically chapter 50 is the next one. So, and there's basically 75 pages. So it's like pretty, like I'm almost there. So I'm thinking about maybe taking a break. I don't know. I might start right after, but I feel kind of hot. My window's right there and stuff, but we'll see. Anyways, I hope you like this video. You can like it, subscribe, you don't have to, I don't care. Anyways, I love you so much, and yeah, okay, bye. Oh my word. Okay, bye.